Today on DC News Now, a Maryland man now in custody charged with the murder of the United Healthcare CEO in New York. We're breaking down the latest updates. Plus, the fog has lifted, but rain is still moving through our region. Meteorologist Damon Matson is joining us with the latest.
Holding drivers accountable on one of Maryland's deadliest highways. I'll tell you about the changes community members want to see.
Then, how to stretch your dollar if you're thinking about making a return, why you may have to pay to ship it back this year. And the nominations are in for the 82nd annual Golden Globes. We have a closer look at this year's nominees.
You're watching the station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us for the news at noon. I'm Annalisa Gale in for Mark Hall. Well, we start with a live look outside at the Mixing Bowl in Springfield. Still a bit foggy out there. And yeah, it's slow going because people are trying to be careful. Definitely saw some traffic out there. Meteorologist Damon Matson now joining us. And Damon, yeah, things are going to get even more interesting tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. We have a DMV First Warn Day in place for Wednesday. We'll be talking about that here in due time. But today it is about that fog that pretty much all of us have dealt with. If you've been outside at any point so far today, you've noticed that fog. Now, the good news is it is starting to lift a little bit. It took all morning, but we are now starting to see things improve. That visibility is still a little bit rough from D.C. northward up into north central Maryland. That's where you could still run into that visibility less than a mile at times, which will definitely impact you on those roadways. But the good news is that the worst of the very dense fog that was around much of the morning has now lifted. Even those dense fog advisories, those were just allowed to expire about a minute ago. So yes, we are getting out of the fog, but don't get me wrong, folks, it is still going to be a gray, dreary day. Cloud cover is filling in. Now that that fog is lifting and looking off to our west, we're already seeing the next round of rainfall building in across parts of West Virginia. So now our attention will turn to that chance for rain that is going to start to develop as we go throughout the later afternoon hours. It will start as just light scattered rain showers, but as we head into the night tonight, that rainfall will start to turn steady pretty quickly. And as we head into your Wednesday, it's going to be all about the rain and the wind that this cold front and storm system are about to bring. So how much rain could we pick up, and will it cause us any sort of problems on Wednesday? We'll have a full look at your forecast coming up here in just a bit.
All right, Damon, thank you. Well, developing now this afternoon, the 5-day search for a suspect in the killing of the United Healthcare CEO in New York City is now over. 26-year-old Luigi Mangione is facing charges in 2 states, including murder charges in New York. Our Haley Milan has the latest.
26-year-old Luigi Mangione. He has ties to the DMV. He's from Towson, Maryland. He went to the Gilman School and he holds 2 Ivy League degrees. Now, it took police 5 days to arrest him 280 miles away from where he allegedly shot Brian Thompson on a New York City street. Police say Mangione quickly left the scene on an e-bike for days, evading search efforts, including helicopters and dive teams. It was a McDonald's employee in Altoona, Pennsylvania, who recognized Mangione from suspect photos. Officers approached him and he was wearing a blue surgical mask working on a computer. Mangione allegedly gave officers a fake name before saying who he actually was. They say he acted nervously and began to shake when they asked if he'd been to New York recently. Investigators found a manifesto bashing the healthcare industry. New York State filed murder charges later in the day, citing evidence found in his backpack, including a 3D printed ghost gun.
Responding officers questioned the suspect, who was acting suspiciously and was carrying multiple fraudulent IDs as well as a U.S. passport. Upon further investigation, officers recovered a firearm on his person as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder.
Mangione is from a prominent Maryland real estate family, which released a statement saying, in part, quote, "Our family is shocked and devastated by Luigi's arrest. We offer our prayers to the family of Brian Thompson, and we ask people to pray for all involved." Mangione's cousin is Maryland State Delegate Nino Mangione, who shared that statement on his X account. Mangione will be extradited to New York. I'm Haley Milan. Back to you.
Haley, thank you. Meantime, in Maryland, a mother is now charged with first-degree murder for allegedly drowning her 3-month-old at their home in Chevy Chase. 37-year-old Mackenzie Colgan appearing before a judge yesterday. According to police now Sunday, Colgan told her husband she was going to give her daughter a bath. That's when officials say she drowned the baby in the bathtub. Authorities say she then broke down and told her husband what she did. Montgomery County State's Attorney's Office telling us what's next in the case now.
The defendant will undergo a mental health evaluation. That was the request of the defense attorney, and the state did not argue that request.
Court documents claim Colgan woke up wanting to kill her husband, 2 children, and herself. Well, new video release shows the suspects in a vehicle in an armed robbery in Northwest D.C. Police say it happened on Saturday, November 23rd, a little before noon in the 2800 block of Sherman Avenue Northwest. We're told the suspects approached the victim, displayed a handgun, and took the victim's belongings. A $10,000 reward is now being offered for information leading to an arrest and conviction. And take a look at this, a stone sign left in pieces after a driver crashed into it in Stafford County, Virginia. Deputies say they are now looking for the driver who took off running. The Stafford County Sheriff's Office says the driver was speeding when it crashed into this Fredericksburg business on Nelm Circle Friday night. Investigators say surveillance video captured the driver frantically removing the car's license plates. Deputies say the suspect then hid them in an old washing machine across the street. Meantime, people who live near Maryland 210 are fed up with drivers speeding on one of the deadliest highways in Maryland. They're hoping the state will increase speed fines to hold drivers accountable now. DC News Now's Yamari Sase spoke to people in the community about what changes they'd like to see.
Yeah, although there are speed cameras here on Indian Head Highway, also known as Maryland 210, people in the area say drivers are still going over 100 miles per hour, and they've already lost enough lives on this road, and the state needs to step in and do something.
When we have a fatality, everybody kind of feels the weight of that within the community.
Indian Head Highway, also known as Maryland 210, is the most deadliest road in the region, according to AAA.
In the last 17 years, we've had 95 fatalities.
Reverend Dr. Robert Screen is with Maryland 210 Traffic Safety Committee. They're calling on state lawmakers to increase the speed camera citations. Currently, each citation is $40.
Somebody going over the 67 mile per hour threshold would get a $40 ticket. Somebody's going 140 miles per hour would get a $40 ticket.
But they want the state to pass a legislation that would increase citations between $60 to $500. The fine will be based on how fast someone is driving. The community has been pushing for this legislation over the past 3 years, and within that time frame, they already lost 17 lives, and 2 of them were in the past 2 weeks.
It all gets down to trying to save lives. It all gets down to trying to bring a more civil and safe place of being on Indian Head Highway.
And they're just hoping state legislators can bring some change.
We're trying to reverse the calculus on that with at least something we think is meaningful in the direction of bringing more a safe and civil roadway in our neighborhood and community.
State delegates representing Prince George's County will actually have a community meeting tonight to discuss priorities for the next legislative session. For now, reporting in Fort Washington, Maryland, I'm Yamari Sase, DC News Now.
Yeah, Marie, thank you. And happening today, Alexandria's new police chief will be sworn in today. Tarek McGuire was selected following a nationwide search and input from the community. Most recently, he served as assistant chief of the Arlington, Texas Police Department. McGuire succeeds former chief Don Hayes, who stepped down earlier this year. The chief will be sworn in this evening at 5 p.m. at the George Washington Masonic National Memorial in Alexandria. Also happening today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will take the stand in a corruption trial against him. Netanyahu is accused of fraud, accepting bribes, and breach of trust. He is denying all wrongdoing, saying this is a witch hunt against him. Netanyahu is also facing an arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court for allegedly restricting humanitarian aid and targeting civilians in Gaza. And right now, questions are swirling this afternoon after the fall of Syria's brutal dictator. The 24-year rule of Bashar al-Assad came to an end over the weekend as rebels advanced into the capital. Secretary of State Antony Blinken saying this is a moment of history, opportunity, but also of risk. That includes the Pentagon's concern about a possible resurgence of ISIS. The U.S. military says it conducted airstrikes on ISIS targets in central Syria Sunday to keep the terrorist group from taking control of Syria. Secretary Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he's concerned about the safety of civilians.
Keep the pressure on ISIS and to deny them the ability to easily resurge.
It's imperative that all actors involved protect civilians.
Russian state media outlets report that Assad and his family fled to Moscow and received asylum. The Biden administration says those who now leads Syria moving forward is a decision for the Syrian people. Meantime, in Virginia, an explosion detection dog in Richmond at the Richmond airport there is Mr. September in TSA's 2025 calendar. This is Harry, the German Shepherd. TSA releasing a calendar every year honoring their explosion detection dogs. Harry works about 40 hours a week at the airport there, making sure passengers and their bags are free of hazardous items. He even worked the Super Bowl in Vegas last year. Harry's handler talked about how happy he is to see him featured in that calendar.
Glad that he gets recognition, because you don't understand like how hard these dogs work. Truly what these dogs do and what you want them to do, he loves doing. He loves to work.
The 2025 edition is now available to download for free on TSA's website. Another nearby pup that's featured, Argo from BWI Airport.